Coming up on the live and interactive ACSA Legislative Lunch Break, Edgar and I will get you all of your latest news and information from the state capitol and CDE with an in-depth analysis on how it impacts you. Plus, we have wrapped up our ACSA Legislative Action Days. We'll tell you how that event went. We'll introduce you to several of the lawmakers as they talk about our main advocacy issues.
The ACSA Legislative Lunch Break starts now.
And it's a couple of minutes after 1 o'clock. We welcome you on a Wednesday to the live and interactive ACSA Legislative Lunch Break, along with Dr. Edgar Zazwata, ACSA's Executive Director. I'm Naj and Edgar, ACSA's Senior Director of Marketing and Communications. Welcome. We are honored to have you here on a Wednesday. Go ahead and jump into the chat and say hello. Let us know where you're watching from today. I am honored, if you will, honored that after 6 weeks, Edgar is back in the co-host chair. How you been?
I did not know it had been 6 weeks. I realized, hey, I haven't done lunch break in a while.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe my invite got lost in the email or whatnot. I don't know. I think the reality, Naj, is I think the last time, I could be wrong, but I think the last time I was on was when you were trying to produce. I think Michael was out. Gianna's still on, and I think we had 3 guests at the same time, and that was the only time I've seen Naj a little stressed out, and I think it traumatized me. So I think I needed a mental break from that. That could be it. Or it could be this. I meant to tell you the highlight. So I've been
I was gonna say that's legitimately where this whole
I've been at Dodger Stadium with Shohei.
Yeah, this is, I mean, let's not even pretend you haven't been on assignment or traveling here and there. You've been on vacation serving as the handler for Shohei Ohtani.
I don't know. I know he needed a new interpreter. Unfortunately, I don't speak Spanish.
Right.
I mean, I speak Spanish. I don't speak Japanese. I'm sorry.
Japanese. Right.
Here's the thing, Naj. I've been meaning to tell you this feedback, but I chose not to because then your head gets too big.
Right.
People all over. I've been literally still after so many shows, people still come up and talk about how much they loved, oh, Naj is so good. You can tell. Now, I think Michael might get as offended, so I don't give you this feedback. But the things that they call the show, I've heard. I really love the legislative break zone. That was one. When is your lunchbox on? I heard that last week. You haven't been on lunchbox lately. So I didn't give you that feedback. I know some of it good, some of it, I know we take this serious. So
yeah.
I know I haven't been with Shohei. I've been enjoying my Dodgers here and there. It depends on the day, but good to be back.
Good to be back. Look, I just want to acknowledge, a lot has changed since the last time you've been here.
Mary always asks for me every time I'm here. He's asking for Megan, so that's why I'm like, I thought that I just was supposed to get replaced.
Well, hey, look, we're gonna make Nary happy today. I mean, you've been on the road. We could ask you what all of these major league cities are like, but we're going to make Nary happy today as well. So Nary, stand by for that. Lester Powell was actually our very first one on the chat today, followed by Sheldon Smith, and of course Nary. And then I see Grant Bennett, who's nearing retirement. Grant Bennett, yes, your former superintendent. So I'm sure these
superintendent of the year.
Superintendent, yes, that is correct.
2024 Superintendent of the Year, Grant Bennett. Well, I'm gonna very much look forward to celebrating him here this year.
Absolutely, folks. We're gonna take you through everything that happened at Legislative Action Days. We're going to hear specifically from the lawmakers that we talked with as they address some of the advocacy issues that our members we're out there talking about. So we'll bring that to you in just a moment. First, I just want to bring one news item to you, and Edgar, I'll have you comment on this. This is a really interesting piece from our friend Diana Lambert over at EdSource on staffing. And we'll go ahead and we'll put a link to this article in our chat so you can read it after the show is done. But this article, 9 rural counties, they're Alpine, Del Norte, Imperial, Inyo, Lassen, Modoc, Mono, Sierra, and Siskiyou, are struggling with student achievement and teacher recruitment. And according to a report released by the UCLA Center for Transformation of Schools, the report indicates that these counties do not have a teacher preparation program within 60 miles of their county offices of education. 6 of the 9 counties, according to this report, have a higher percentage of underprepared teachers. The state average is between 4 and 5%. In counties like Modoc and Lassen, according to this article, their percentage of underprepared teachers is at 14 and 17%, respectively. This report had nearly 20 recommendations, from financial support to professional development and mentorship to community and culture support. Again, we have put that link over in our chat. You can go ahead and read that afterwards. I mean, Edgar, it's not necessarily surprising. We've talked about the staffing issue. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. But the data from these rural districts, I think it does speak to finding applicants, finding those that want to get into the profession is hard on its own, but being able to create programs in some of these more rural counties, that's even more of a struggle.
Yeah. The one positive, you could look at a positive. I feel like lately this year, there's been a renewed spotlight on just the plight of our most rural schools, right? There's been newspaper articles. I know there's new research. I know here in Sacramento, there's been panels about it. And I think it's something that, frankly, and this is credit to our members, right? I think for a long time, even for statewide associations for like ours, right? To acknowledge, hey, do we really appreciate the unique needs of folks of these communities, of our members, of our students? And I think slowly but surely, like, just bringing some of this to light will hopefully challenge everybody, ACSA, the state, thinking about resources. How can we differentiate policy? But I think it really it hits on the head when you're creating new laws, rules. And this was one of the beauties of Leg Action Day, to put some context to that, of what does it mean in their respective communities. So yeah, like you said, it's another thing validating what we've heard from a lot of our members.
Yeah, and there are 2 comments there in our comment section that I want to just make note of. Amanda Wade says UCLA also stated that 5 of those 8 counties could be helped by a university or community college partnership in that area. And then Helio Brasil, small and rurals struggle to compete with larger and more affluent and higher paying districts. It's a huge equity issue. So an article that you should definitely take a look at after the show. Okay, so we talked at the top of the show. This week were the ACSA Legislative Action Days. And for those of you who haven't been part of this event, Edgar, we bring in more than 200 education leaders at all levels from throughout the state to meet with lawmakers and staff. And this year we had incredible energy, and many of our members spent time speaking directly with elected leaders in their districts. There's you. We had several lawmakers that were here. Want to just take you region to region and give you a chance to see some of the regions and some of the lawmakers that were there. Our members in Region 3, which covers the Sacramento area, here they're meeting with Assembly Member Cecilia Aguiar Curry. Senator John Laird is a past recipient of our ACSA Friend of Education Award. He is here meeting with our members from Region 10, that's in the Central Coast area. Our team from Region 11, that's Tulare, Kings, Kern counties, and stretches to the California-Nevada border. They met with Senator Shannon Grove. Our Region 15 members from LA County meeting with their representative, Assemblymember Blanca Rubio. And finally, from Region 18, which covers San Diego and Imperial counties down at the U.S.-Mexico border. Here's our team meeting with Assemblymember Laura Davies. And we mentioned that, was an incredible energy. It was something that you could feel throughout the event, a lot of which was sparked by a large group of members who were participating for the first time.
What's great about people like myself who are seasoned is to see that energy, the nervousness, I'm trying to prepare, and to see that, and then to be able to guide them and calm them and say, let's do this, we can do this together, and then to see the excitement from them as to after a meeting, how did it go, and their we're debriefing, and they're so excited about their next meeting. So now we're hoping that this will encourage them to continue coming back year after year.
When I look around the room and I see so many fresh faces and so much fresh energy, I'm just honored to be part of the energy and really learn from our newer educators, our newer administrators, and pass on any historical information or knowledge that I might be able to empower them with.
And that gives us an opportunity. We just decided to pop up her photo there, Edgar, because why not? She has co-hosted the show a number of times since you got scared and jumped on the Major League Baseball tour. Megan Bear, our ACSA legislative advocate, one of our staff members who was highly involved in this event. Edgar, just initially your thoughts as we wrap up Legislative Action Days, what you saw, what the experience was like.
Yeah, no, it was like the members said in the clips there, just the energy is unparalleled. That day of the year when we have so many of our leaders from around the state really convening here. The first day, we do a lot of briefings and really talk it out, and then having them go over to the Capitol and really put context on some of these policy issues. Megan, Yvonne, the whole team did such a great job of just really setting it up about like, what are these big picture things? But we always make this joke with them, right? Like people come in every year, and especially for the first timers, you're like, okay, I'm supposed to be an expert. I'm supposed to like know all the bills and whatnot. But the one thing we always push them on is like, no, that yes, we have our suggested talking points, but the thing that can't ever be replicated, even by our amazing government relations team, is them telling those stories, them talking about how X policy is translating to what's the impact on their students, right? They're already an experts. It's utilizing that inherent influence that frankly our leaders already have. It's not something that they're getting from the briefings. And it was just nice. It was cool to see folks go across the street and then come out with like, hey, yeah, they engaged, they were listening to me, they were seeking our perspective on these and sometimes other issues that even weren't on our talking points.
Yeah, and those issues that were on the talking points, fully funding Prop 98 and LCFF, safe and modern schools, which is the facility bond, of course, staffing, which we talked about, and then emergency school closures, which, Megan, I want to ask you specifically about that advocacy point. What can you tell us about that conversation?
Thanks, Naj. Yeah, so one of the governor's proposals in his budget this year is to require schools to offer remote instruction during an emergency school closure that lasts. This is one of the issues that resonated with a lot of members who, we've all experienced emergencies in our backyard and have our own evacuation story, some a little more scary than others. So this is a proposal that we are very concerned about. Schools that aren't able to offer remote instruction would see a funding cut. So a lot of our members went and told stories, reminded their legislators, hey, remember this fire in our backyard? Remember that mudslide? And reminding them too that schools are often evacuation centers. So we have to focus on health and safety during an emergency and not look for ways to trip up schools on their school funding.
We mentioned those four advocacy topics. I want to hit on two other topics, one being transitional kindergarten, the implementation process, and a legislative commitment to fund lower staffing ratios. Extending that conversation beyond just transitional kindergarten, we spoke with Assemblymember Al Maritsucci. He is proposing a bill, AB 2226, that would make regular kindergarten mandatory.
Here we are, like going full steam ahead in terms of making universal transitional kindergarten available to all eligible 4-year-olds. Let's not forget the 5-year-olds. And so that's the point of try to make kindergarten mandatory, knowing that early childhood education is the best way to close the achievement gap, most important equity measure that we can continue to fight for.
And let me have you guys comment on what he had to say there about the mandatory kindergarten. And of course, we're coming off of the conversation of the transitional kindergarten. Megan, I'll have you start.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we all agree that a high quality early childhood education is really critical. But that doesn't happen in a vacuum. We need to have high quality, appropriate facilities for our youngest learners. They're just a lot smaller. They require different things than our older students do. We need, to the earlier conversation, high quality teachers. especially in rural areas and even beyond. It's been very challenging to get educators that are highly qualified. And, at the end of the day, these kids do need lower class sizes and ratios, but that costs money. People power costs money. So, I think a big piece of our advocacy is to say, look, there's no disagreement that these programs can be really transformative, but they have to be backed up by funding and planning and all those important things.
Yeah, I think just to piggyback on what Megan said, and she said it perfectly in terms of this issue, and I'll even take it a little bit more global. I think this is not only the power of Leverage Action Day. I would say it's the power and the reason that we were talking about how this logo across the street or our name comes with some clout, right? And again, that's not us who work this up here and we're in there making relationship, but it's really the folks that we represent, because I think what makes this organization unique for all of the ideas that they have over there in the Capitol across the street, like our folks, our leaders are the ones who have to implement it, right? Like, so what Megan said, classic example, there's a lot of ideas in Sacramento and DC, some better than others. Now them putting some context of what does that actually mean in practice? Because it's really easy to submit a proposal, think about it, but what is this actually going to mean in terms of implementation? To give some credit to Assemblyman Succi, one of the things that he actually told our participants here earlier this week, that for him, and he loves touting that, when he's going to go and make a decision in a legislative committee, whether it be him, he's the chair of the education committee. So obviously how is he going to come down on something is really important. And then often where he lands is where the administrators are on this, right? What does ACSA think about this? And I think that is credit to our members, credit to our team who are constantly in there with him and his staff trying to provide some of that context. So that was actually one of my highlights of the whole week. And just because we take note of it, I mean, our team, we hear it when he says it in committee, hey, ACSA was opposed to this, so for this reason, I'm offering these amendments, or I can't support this. But to have him hear and validate that's something that he's constantly looking out to, I think that is the proof of all of the grassroots advocacy, all the things that we say our members. That's just one small piece of like, hey, it's working. Let's stay on that.
Yeah, absolutely. One other issue that was talked about as far as advocacy was concerned was accountability, specifically streamlining accountability. Our members were urging lawmakers to support Senate Bill 1315, which would require the Department of Ed to put forth recommendations to the legislature on how to consolidate and reduce reporting requirements. Now, this was especially important to Secretary of State Shirley Weber, who was previously working in the Capitol. She says of all the work done on accountability, the state still hasn't gotten it right.
We have yet to have a true accountability system, and that was what I argued for years in the legislature, that basically assessed and evaluated the performance of our schools based on the achievement of our kids, not on some other standard that may or may not have much relevance. It's important to have all those other things, but if our kids are not reading and they're not doing math and they're not doing science and they're not doing well and social activities, then we're going to have a problem. And we missed 2 years of school during COVID. Many kids have not recaptured that. We still have to have a stronger voice about what we expect and who's going to be accountable for making it happen. We have yet to do that in California.
I have to tell you, I could listen to Shirley Weber talk. She could read the phone book, and I guarantee it's going to be a really unique way of delivering the message. Let me get your reaction to what the Secretary of State had to say on accountability. Edgar, we'll have you start.
Yeah, Dr. Weber, I mean, she oftentimes, and I'll say, and I'll start with, but there's been issues where we don't agree with Dr. Weber 100% of the time. But the one thing that I always give Dr. Weber credit, she is coming from a place of like thinking about this, what's in the best interest of students. And I think even what she said about accountability, and obviously she's alluding to maybe all the various metrics and the layers of systems that our state has put in place, whether if you're not looking at fundamentally, are kids reading, are they writing, is this the thing, then are we hitting the mark? I know a lot of our folks would generally agree with that, especially how the one thing that we've been pushing is accountability. True accountability isn't just, hey, do a report on this, or tell us, how you track these dollars. Yes, some of that's important because I think these are public dollars and we need to. But the more you just pile on in terms of the layers of report after report, especially going back to where we started today, think about it in a rural, small district. They don't have all the capacity to, let's say, my former employer, LA Unified, to just do all of that. So if somebody's had to do that, you're obviously taking that away from somebody who would be serving kids.
Megan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think her points really resonate. And, our members, we've heard a lot of the accountability systems that we have, they focus so much on checking boxes and pushing paper, and it takes administrators away from their job, being instructional leads and focusing on student achievement. So, I mean, I think her comments really resonate. Clearly, there's a lot more work that needs to be done and can be done to improve our accountability system, make them it a more meaningful system for our students.
Last thing, before the second day of the event in Sacramento was finished, we had a visit from Elenikakis, our state lieutenant governor and a gubernatorial candidate. She talked to us about why the work we do right now will shape how future generations thrive in our public education system.
When I think of those young people, I really think about the future of our state because that is what they are. And when you consider the fact that about 61% come from low-income households, it's incredibly important for us as state leaders to remember that we need to invest in making sure that we have enough educators and enough administrators in our schools. And we also have to invest to make sure that the facilities are not falling down on top of our kids. There is no better way that we signal to young people that they are the future than to show them how important they are by making those kinds of investments.
Edgar, you led that fireside chat with the lieutenant governor. She, of course, is running for governor in what's already a very full field of candidates. But your thoughts, your takeaways from that discussion?
Yeah, first of all, as I was coming off a stage, I overheard some of our members say, man, we're going to have a tough choice in a couple of years in terms of governor. I mean, I have to say, I really appreciated the conversation with the lieutenant governor. And this, I've had the privilege to be in different settings. And like I said on stage the other day, I think the one piece, we interact with a lot of policymakers, right? And sometimes they're going to agree with us, sometimes they're not. I think the biggest thing, and this definitely is a testament to Elenikakis, that she doesn't pretend to know everything. She actually came to us early in her tenure in the capacity of lieutenant governor, being the second highest ranking official there in the state, and asked, hey, what are the things I need to know about? Where do I dig in? And where can I appreciate more of the perspectives of your members? And I think she took that same kind of vibe and perspective, even in the conversation, right? You could tell, obviously, all these elected officials do their homework coming in before we're going to go in and ask them questions. But you could see, especially for lieutenant governor, because most of their focus is higher ed, but she has already served and been effective in making some of those connections back to how is this going to impact public ed. So I really appreciated not only the conversation we had with her, but just her eagerness to know more about our administrators, her eagerness to know more about our organization, and how her and the various hats she wears as lieutenant governor can help connect dots for us.
Okay, final thoughts as we wrap up Legislative Action Days. I will say, Edgar, and I'm sure you noticed this as well, every time we talked to Megan, because, she was kind of spearheading everything on Monday, she just had the smile. She's like, oh, everything's just going perfect. Everything is going great. So final thoughts, Megan, we'll have you start.
Just a big thank you to all our members who came out and did this advocacy work. It is such a great time of year. We're in the midst of budget negotiations, all those visits that you did talking about these issues, and it really helps bolster our advocacy efforts. So just, really grateful. I mean, we had more than almost 300 members this year. I think it might have been a record, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So just a big thank you.
And Edgar, your thoughts?
Yeah, two general thoughts is one, our team is awesome. Megan and the rest of the government relations team just rocked it, preparing our members. We got a lot of great feedback and just some of the tweaks that we made in terms of putting the information before our folks. So one, our folks are in such great hands with the staff that does this on a day-to-day basis up here. Two, and I think it was Maria Thompson in one of the clips said this. This was also my favorite part. Talking to the first-time attendees of LAD, folks who, whether it be a site administrator or somebody who had never gotten involved at this level, and just really them having their eyes open up about the things that happen here in Sacramento, what the connection is to their jobs and how that could change it one way or the other. And them, I think, seeing this inherent influence that we talked about. I loved it. I love how many new folks we had on this. Credit to our regions, the VPLAs, Dr. Gina Potter, who was our statewide VPLA, who really led all of this from her leadership perspective there. I think it was just awesome to see all the new blood, as Maria put it. And I would say, and when we say, we haven't said this yet, LAD, and we've kind of marketed where it's days, right? But it shouldn't stop there. It shouldn't stop on the one time of year when you come up to Sacramento, really encouraging our folks. What can they do at the local level, meeting their representatives, asking them to come do school site visits, really continuing this theme of educating them. I think that the more we're able to just build those relationships when we do need to go push, whether it be to have them support something or oppose something, that brings some credibility to us, to the team that's doing this up here in Sacramento. So all told, Naj, it was a real successful week.
Yeah, and we've talked about the importance of storytelling. Helio Brasil says it right here. We can't expect action without sharing our local stories. Very well said. Okay, Megan, it would be absolutely wrong of me to have you on 2 weeks before the May revision comes out, or a week and a half before the May revision comes out, and not ask you a budget question. So, Megan, where are we as far as the budget is concerned?
Yes, we do have so the governor is going to issue his May revise in about 2 weeks. He'll update his January budget proposal with the latest revenues. We know that, there's obviously a deficit. The beginning of the year, we were really concerned. We were heading into a recession. Revenues were coming in really low. In the last few months, in a positive turn, we've actually seen that turn around. Revenues are tracking very positively. We will still have a deficit to deal with. And I think the May revision, the deficit might be a little bit bigger than the governor predicted in January. However, hopefully revenues keep tracking this way, and this is a one-year blip. I mean, that's our hope, and that we'll have a more positive budget year next year. But we'll see. We'll see what he does in May.
We'll see what he does in May. That gives us the opportunity to talk about 4 consecutive weeks of budget talk here. We've got John Gray from School Services on next week. We'll have our special edition of the lunch break on May revision day, and then we'll come and do a full recap of it. So get yourself ready for data, for numbers, everything that I hate about subject matter. We're gonna do all of that. Megan Baer, ACSA Legislative Advocate. Megan, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And Edgar, we do want to make mention of a couple of things. First, if you like what you see here on the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break, we invite you to like us on Facebook or subscribe to us on YouTube. When you do that, you'll get instant alerts when we're about to come on the air with breaking news, like we'll do in a couple of weeks with the May revision, and of course, our regularly scheduled Wednesday show. And if you have great stories happening in your school districts, we want to tell those stories too. Go ahead and send your talking points, your bullet points, your photos to our EdCal editor, Michelle Carl, at mcarl@acsa.org. One more thing, Edgar, and then I know you've got a couple of announcements too. If you like what you see, you'll also like it audio only. We are now making the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break available as a podcast. You can download that onto your mobile device or however you listen to podcasts. We are also available now in audio form, Edgar. So now they've given us a second platform.
If they get tired of seeing us, they could just listen to us. I know. So I know I've been pushing the team to let's think about other ways we could get this content out. And I think podcasts, I'm biased. I love podcasts, right? So being in the car, just around. So yeah, excited that we're going down that road. And then more important, Naj, I wanted to bring up that today, in case folks didn't know, is National Principals Day. In my humble opinion, I think most of our members would agree, is that being a site administrator, being a principal, is one of the toughest jobs in the whole educational system, especially, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but especially given what we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years with with all of the increased demands, with what it means to be a leader at the site level, with everything we were talking about from the state being the center of this community. So I don't think they're the biggest percentage. Our site administrators are the biggest percentage of our membership, and rightly so. I think we're always constantly thinking about how can we support those folks even more so given all of the challenges. But today, and hopefully, I don't know how many folks, get it's being acknowledged, but at least here at ACSA, we wanted to extend a big thank you of appreciation to all of our principals and site administrators.
Absolutely. If you're at district office, if you're a superintendent or assistant superintendent, at least send them an email today to wish them a happy Principals Day. Edgar, we do want to make mention of one other thing. Our ACSA past president, Erin Simon, has been at Long Beach Unified for X number of years, a very, very long time. Well, now she is transitioning, and we've talked about staffing. She's moving over to the LA County Office of Education, a brand new position for her. Edgar, we have had this incredible opportunity to work with Erin over the last 3 to 4 years with her as part of the executive board. I think LA County is getting a really, really great education leader. I can't say enough about the benefits that LA County is going to have. Absolutely.
I mean, Erin is one of a kind, and I mean, we benefited from her leadership here at ACSA. I know Long Beach has, and I think all her spirit and just really her direction, especially when dealing with students who have had tougher paths. And I know now at the county, her working with the juvenile justice programs and all of the other services that the county does. Like you said, I think the county, all of the districts in the county are going to be better because Erin's going to be working with them. So yeah, congratulations on the new capacity.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Don't forget, John Gray from School Services of California will be here next week with a preview of the May revision. Thank you so much for joining us today on the live and interactive ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. Remember, we are live and interactive Wednesdays here on ACSA Facebook and ACSA YouTube. Have a great rest of the day and rest of the week, and we'll see you next week.